Yeah, looking forward to getting another home game. Our second time to play at home against a really quality opponent in Kent State. We did some off-season study on these guys, and they've got a really unique offense and actually a really unique defense as well. So they do a tremendous job. Sean Lewis has done a great job with these guys in terms of coaching them up and getting these guys to play hard. They've played a really tough schedule, and the teams they've played. And look forward to an opportunity to play these guys.
Hey, Coach, going back to Kent State in 1998 when you played against them, what do you remember about that game? Because I think you had a 2-point conversion where you tossed it to Marcus Stroud in the end zone. Can you talk about that play and when you played them back then?
Yeah, I didn't even realize that we played them when I was here. I do remember that game. I think I dropped the snap, so it's probably a good idea that I got to throw it to a guy that's 6'7", 320 pounds, and he was hard to miss. If that was in fact the game that happened on, but don't remember much about that game then. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, Kirby, you mentioned a little bit about perimeter blocking the other day as a key to a lot of the plays that Brock has on the perimeter. Just in general, how much of a focus this offseason was perimeter blocking for the tight ends and receivers, and how much does that make your offense go a little bit talking to on the outside?
Well, it's always been a focus. It's not like this year's it's new. It's been a big focus for us. We try to start practice that way every day with some form of fit up drill, some form of contact drill for skill players in terms of ball protection. So it's part of our DNA. It's important that you're selfless and you're willing to block, and it's not him. It's what football is now. Football has evolved to where there's 2 or 3 and sometimes 4 things that are given to a quarterback on a play, and 2 of those 4 usually involve the perimeter and involve perimeter blocking. So if you don't do it well, you have no chance, and if you do it well, then you have a chance to get some easier yards.
Yeah, hey Kirby, just wanted to ask you about Oscar Dell. Catches his first touchdown catch on Saturday. How big was that for him in terms of getting him involved in the offense and up to speed going forward now?
Well, I think it's a great confidence boost, but he's done well in our offense the entire camp. He's practiced well. He had good spring. He's competing out there. He's learning how to be a complete tight end, both inline blocker, outside blocker, how to adjust to things when things don't happen the way you quite expect them to. There's a certain number of reps you have to get and go through a volume of reps to improve that. I think you just happened to see one play that he got the fruits of his labors, but there's a lot of labors in there you don't get to see, and he's done a good job working at it and putting his nose down and grinding to become a better player.
Coach, can you talk about what you've seen from Carson Beck? Obviously, he's been able to get in the games a good bit his last 3 games, and his statistics look impeccable.
Yeah, Carson's done a good job. He understands our offensive system. I think he's playing with a lot of confidence. He's, in another year of being in the system, and you remember there was a point in time where he probably had more reps than Stetson did in terms of volume of work, because he took a lot of reps as a 2 when Stetson took some as a 3. So he's got a lot of work. He's intelligent. He understands what the defense is doing. He understands his protections. He knows where to go with the ball. He's accurate. So he's done a nice job with the opportunity he's gotten.
Curry with Brock Hours. From your perspective, what does it look like with Todd trying to find creative ways to get the ball in his hands? Before we see it on Saturdays, what does it look like during the game?
Well, it's probably a question better served for I'm assuming you're talking about Monken, not Hartley. I don't know.
That's a good point. I'm talking about
Yeah, well, I think the entire offensive staff takes on that burden, and he delegates a lot of presentations, just like we do on defense, and each coach has their area of expertise, whether that be third down, red area, short yardage, goal line, perimeter. I mean, there's just a lot of facets that go into it, and each guy has to come up with plays. And you can imagine each coach in his presentations trying to get the ball in the hands of a playmaker in different ways. So we've got a few of those guys that you have to get touches to, and he's certainly one that I think everybody tries to find ways to be creative, and you know, you got to move him around because people are going to know he's a target.
Kirby, you mentioned last week games changed, that quarterbacks aren't just sitting back there for you to take runs at. Expanding on that, with obviously you'd rather have a sack, but how much have you and you think defenses in general kind of changed your approach to put emphasis on pressure, considering how hard it is to sack mobile quarterbacks and fast throwing quick passes?
I don't know that we put any emphasis on it. I mean, it's the evolution of the game, and every quarterback's different. I mean, there's quarterbacks that scramble to run, there's quarterbacks that scramble to throw. What you do behind your pressure is very important, because there's, you know, if quarterback scrambling to run, you better have somebody behind the pressure that can get him down. If he's scrambling to pass, you better have more that can cover and hope that he does that he tries to throw the ball. I think everyone's different. I mean, in every offensive system we play each week, they take a different approach. Some are not going to let you hit their quarterback at the cost of grounding, at the cost of incompletions, at the cost of the quarterback possibly making a mistake and throwing a pick. Our job is to be disruptive and pressure the quarterback, affect the quarterback, but that doesn't always equal sack the quarterback, which is, you know, obvious this year. That's been tough to do, but I think a lot of people are looking at us defensively. The first two games especially, they have to look at last year to determine what they're going to do this year. And, you know, looking at that last year, you're saying, I'm not going to get sacked, I'm not going to get hit, and they're trying to protect them by what they do.
Yeah, Kirby, Darius Smith made the trip on Saturday. It looked like he was working with the safeties and stars in pregame. Just what have y'all seen from him in terms of his skill set, and how much have y'all been giving him a look at star as a place where he could potentially fill in?
Well, he's really a Sam. And Sam linebacker is a outside linebacker that also plays in space some. And today's day and age, you're seeing every personnel grouping utilized, and we want to have the luxury of having a person with more size to be able to play when people go 12 open and people open up sets. So it's really more of a development decision for him. It's not a position change. He played jack in the game. He played outside linebacker in the game. So we're developing a guy that has the skill set to run fast, to learn how to play multiple positions, that's what we told him when we recruited him.
Kirby, I wanted to ask you about Jalen Carter and AD, kind of what their status is going into this week.
Yeah, Jalen's dealing with a lingering ankle issue. He's really had it since the Oregon game, and he's, you know, trying to get well, trying to get him healthy. Hopefully, he'll be full go this week. He was close last week, but didn't end up having to play a lot of snaps. And then AD, we're hopeful to get him back this week. Again, it's one of those deals that last week we thought we might get him back. We're hopeful to get him back this week.
Kirby, kind of a unique situation with Kent State. They've already played two top 25 ranked teams. Just in those games, was there anything in particular that stood out to you, particularly with what they did on offense?
Yeah, they got a really good football team. You know, they've got a quarterback that I didn't know a lot about, who is number one, is a tremendous athlete. Number two, he makes a lot of people miss. He's dynamic with the ball in his hand. He's made some wow throws. I mean, you're going to hear about this guy. He's had some 60, 70-yard passes that are incredible. They've got some really good wideouts. They're a talented team. And then you go watch them on defense. They do enough different defensively that it can create issues for you, because it's not what you see every day. It's a little more new age defense, which people are playing to affect teams that are on the perimeter more, second level, fitters, able to disguise a little more. So I know you guys don't ever listen to anything we say in here, but this is a really good football team, and they have played two really good teams. And you watch the first half of the Oklahoma game, you have no question how good they are. And they really played Washington well outside of first couple drives. Washington scored on them, but outside of that, they went toe to toe with Washington.
Coach, ask about William Poole. I know he didn't travel the other day. Do you have an update on him and whether or not he may want to play the rest of the year?
Yeah, William Poole's not going to be with us for the remainder of the season. He's dealing with a personal matter, and he's going to focus on that and his health and well-being. So he will not be with us for the rest of the year, unfortunately.
Kirby, I know it's only 3 games in, but obviously a lot of people are seeing the scores y'all put up and the numbers you put up. Already, comparisons to last year. After losing so many guys, is it far-fetched to say this team by the end of the year could be as good or better than last year's squad?
I don't do comparisons. I've said that repeatedly. You can't compare anybody to last year because last year's teams, 15 of them are in the NFL. So it's one of those things that this team has a long way to go. The worst thing that can happen to this team is start believing what people say about them. And the toughest job we got this week is trying to explain to everybody that Kent State's a really good football team. And I know you think I just sit up here and say that, but you turn the tape on, they've got a really, really good football team. And it's not so much about Kent State. It's really about, does our team want to grow? And this is a week that we need to have growth. We got to get better in a lot of spots. And you guys don't get to see it from our perspective, and the fans don't get to see it from our perspective in terms of what we see on tape and the mistakes we make and how many guys we need to get better. But certainly going to need them to get better this week.
What's the key to maximize when you have a collection of players that come in, pretty talented in terms of the consensus of them, and to get the connection that they talk about, that's key for them to kind of, be really good. I mean, from your perspective as a coach, what do you do to maximize that?
To maximize what?
Just making the most of, the talent you have.
Practice really hard, discipline, toughness, connection, composure. I mean, all the things we talk about in this organization, they have to permeate it whether we win or lose. We go out there to practice today. We can't treat today any different than if we won or lost the last game, and that has to come from everybody in the organization has to relay that message, and the players are the ones that got to buy into it. And to be honest with you, that's the culture that the players created around here. That, hey, to be at Georgia, it's tough. To be at Georgia, you got to practice hard. To be at Georgia, you got to earn it. And as long as they believe in doing that, then we've got enough talent that we're going to have a good opportunity when we go out on the field on Saturday. But they've got to believe in that culture.
Continuing kind of roster update, is Reed Gilbert going to be good to go this week? And completely different question, but we're going to talk to Ladd lately, and just what is it that makes him? Seems like we've asked this a lot, but is there something in particular that makes him as successful as he is? Not necessarily having a lot of the other measurables that you expect with an SEC skill player.
I'll start with the Reed question. He's going to be day to day throughout the week. And then Ladd has been an incredible team person. I mean, this guy embodies what you talk about when you talk about team, because he blocks so hard, he blocks so physically, he blocks bigger than he actually is. You watch the tape closely, he goes in and cracks on safeties and hits people and goes and does what you ask. Then he gets the ball in his hand and he makes people miss, and it's really the same thing he did in high school. It's not any different. If you actually watch the tape, he did that in high school. If you watch his combine workouts where he went and competed against highly rated guys, he did the same thing there. So it's not a surprise that he's had success, because it usually carries over. If you're successful and you do things right in high school and you run fast, you're going to have an opportunity to be successful in college. And that's the one thing I don't think people give Ladd enough credit for, is his toughness and his speed.
Kirby, with William Poole's absence, how does the secondary next man up depth chart change? Anybody get moved or anything like that?
Nope. We've kind of been chugging along. I mean, to be honest, we've had Bullard at star and Tyke at star the entire fall camp. Poole played some there in the third down situations, I think against Oregon, but he was working, more at corner. But we got the guys we got, and we got to get the guys we got better to get where we want to go.
Another update, Kirby, just on Nyland Green. I think he's looking over this week.
Got a hamstring, and we're hopeful to get him back soon.
Yeah, what have you seen so far out of Amarius Mims this season, especially with him getting that early playing time during the game, and what improvements he's been able to make so far?
I think he's got more confidence in going to the game in more meaningful moments. He's extremely athletic and talented, and we've really stressed to him how much he can improve in terms of his run game and his pass game and his knowledge of the game. And the only way you get better at that point is to go play, and he's getting to play, quite a bit in the last 3 games. So we want him to continue to do that. And really the conditioning level of these games outside in the heat has allowed us to play 3 guys and stay fresh at the position.
Coach, Julio Humphrey and Dalen Everett are 2 of the corners that come out when the twos come out for your squad. What have you seen out of them so far when they've come in? What will it take for them to earn more playing time?
Experience, confidence, executing in big moments. They both have gotten a little bit of playing time, but both of them can improve from when they've gone in the game. They've got to do a good job of performing better when they get out there.
Kirby, it looks like College Game Day had some footage of you guys not used, like people at the program hooking up AC system at the locker room in Columbia. Was that beneficial? Having the new kickoff, did you find it to be helpful?
I found it to be cooler. That was, we tried to send our guys in early to halftime just because it was cooler in there than it was on the field. So we sent the offense in to cool off a little bit.
Kirby, you've had a few more months to kind of watch how recruiting is playing out over this new NIL situation. What are your current thoughts on recruiting with the new, I don't say limited, but the new landscape, if you would?
Hard to say. We haven't had a really full body of work. I guess you could say you had a full body of work last year, but it's changed so much in this class from last class. It's already been different. I felt like it was 20-30% of the conversation last year, and it's certainly higher than that now. But I can't judge it or assess it because until you're through December, you don't know anything, and you'll find out more as it goes along.
Yeah, Kirby, you mentioned Ladd kind of embracing that blocking mindset. Is that hard to instill in a receiver room when everyone's focused on catches and everything, or is that just kind of part of the deal coming to Georgia? If you want to come out and kind of block well on the outside.
It's not, blocking is not just for Georgia. Okay, there's like every receiver coach in America will tell you that it's pretty important. When you don't have the ball, you have to be willing to block. I think you hear me talk about it more, but it's not. Every good team, that wants to have explosive plays. It doesn't matter what the play is. Somebody has to block somebody. So that happens to include receivers. There's no great receiving core out there that never blocks, right? So you got to do a good job of that, whether it's a receiver screen, whether it's your buddy, whether it's a running back, whether it's a quarterback. It's there. Ladd has no problem embracing that. Ladd's a team player. I'll be honest, we haven't had many receivers here that don't embrace blocking. They like catching the ball, but you got to embrace that if you want to be a good football player. You want to play in the National Football League, you got to block.
Got time for 2 more questions?
Kirby, what goes into knowing when to pull a starting quarterback in any football game? Is it a predetermined deal, or is it a gut feel? Is it you, is it Monken, staff?
You got to win the football game. So the number one thing is, what do we got to do to win the football game? Number 2 thing is, what do we got to do to stay healthy? What do we got to do to create confidence and keep rhythm in our offense? And there's a lot of things that go into that in terms of experience for the 2. So there's no perfect way to answer that question, because every game that's going to be different based on who we play the next week. How did we play that game? Where are we? Who's playing around them? What O-linemen are in? So there's not a exact answer to that question.
Kind of going back along the recruiting questions. Is recruiting the quarterback different than any of the other positions on the field, being that you're pretty much going to play one guy versus defensive lineman, secondary, all those other positions, you have rotations, but quarterback there's not as much rotation there. So do you recruit them differently?
I don't know that you recruit them differently. You do the same plan of attack. You certainly sell it probably differently. And there's not a lot of quarterbacks out there that don't think they can come in and play. So you're not selling, come here, sit on the bench. You're selling an opportunity to develop. And I think our proven track record Monken has, our offense has, of developing quarterbacks, of giving guys an opportunity to play in a system that they can watch play on Sundays is pretty important. You know, there's developmental positions in recruiting. Offensive linemen are probably the least played position as a true freshman, right along with quarterback. So a lot of those positions are developmental positions, and you have to grow and get better. And I think that's part of recruiting, is telling them the truth when it comes to that.
Thank you.